All right. All right. Aloha, everybody. Brennan Moriocum, Dean for the College of Engineering. So welcome again to our Engineering Leadership Seminar Series for the College of Engineering here at UH Manoa, brought to you by the Hayashida Ohana, Ken and Donna Hayashida. So very much appreciative of their support, continued support of our efforts to expose our students and our engineering community to various leaders within our community. And today is no different than many of our other leadership seminar series where we have another fantastic leader in our community. And I will let Adam and Elizabeth introduce him in a little bit, but this one is a favorite of mine just because Kaipo Crowell is actually a former neighbor, next door neighbor of mine in Kailua. So I've always enjoyed, especially now that he's retired and has more put up LinkedIn posts on leadership thoughts and his views on life and stuff. It's very heartwarming to hear a lot of what he has to share. So I'm looking forward to today. But that's just the kind of person that Kaipo is. So I'm looking forward to having him in. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam and Elizabeth. So thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So my name is Adam. With me today is Ellie. So we'd like to welcome everyone again to the Leadership Seminar Series of March, presented by the Hayashida family. So we've got a great speaker here today. So Ellie will start off by introducing him.
Okay, so Kaipo Crowell, he's a graduate of Kamehameha Schools in Honolulu, Hawaii, and he received a BSME from University of Portland in 1983. He was then hired by the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard right out of college and trained and qualified as a nuclear engineer as part of the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program. So there he was the senior manager for over 23 years, and the last 6 he was a member of the senior executive service. So as a senior civilian leader of the shipyard, he was responsible for the overall performance of the largest industrial employer in the state of Hawaii with over 6,000 employees and an over $1 billion budget. So he recently retired in April of 2021 after 38 years at the shipyard. He's committed to the national defense of the country by maintaining and repairing billion-dollar nuclear submarines. So some awards include, he was a twice recipient of the Department of Navy Meritorious Civilian Service Award, the Department of Navy Superior Civilian Service Award, and recognition of accomplishment from the Hawaii Congressional Delegation. So currently, he's providing consulting services with Kaipo professional development that addresses connecting Hawaii-based manufacturing, engineering, and technology organizations with Department of Defense needs, collaborating nationwide initiatives to improve shipbuilding, ship repair, and ship maintenance for the U.S. Navy and the National Shipbuilding and Research Program. He's creating workforce development opportunities to prepare for future workforce needs for the state of Hawaii, and also providing professional and leadership development opportunities to private and public organizations and their leaders and staff, including facilitating leadership development seminars and executive coaching. So currently, he's enjoying his retirement or refreshment, as he likes to call it, with a focus on his faith, family, friends, fitness, and fun with his wife, Peggy, of 38 years, his 3 children and 4 grandchildren. He's enjoying golf, pickleball, and travel, but only decent in travel at this point. So yeah, that was about Kaipo. Now we'll transition to him with any opening remarks he'd like to share.
Okay, thank you. If we can put up my screen, I would appreciate that. Thanks for that. I don't know who wrote that. How much that is true, but I just want to thank everybody for taking the time today. I want to echo what Dean Moroka said about the Hayashida family supporting these leadership seminar series. I think it's very important. And I also appreciate that, you know, for you to take the time, that means you want to learn, you want to grow, but I also like meeting new people. So thank you for inviting me today. Let me see if I can get this going here. Do this. Oh. Hold on, we'll get some technical. So I did put together some slides just to kind of remind me what I was talking about. At times I kind of drift back and forth, but I'm going to talk about some various topics today. So at the end, if you got questions, don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay. No problem. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So let me talk a little bit about my path. My life has been focused on faith and family from the beginning of my life till now. I grew up in the church, Catholic church, went to a Catholic elementary school, went to Kamehameha, which is really a faith-based institution. And then lo and behold, I went to University of Portland, which is a Catholic college as well. So that was my path and my faith. It kind of connected to education as well. I come from a big family, big Hawaiian family. You could probably throw a rock and you hit one of my relatives. I used to tell my kids, hey, watch out who you go out with, because it could be your cousin. So family is really important to me as well, just getting with family. So faith and family really guided me throughout my life, not only to mention my career. So I went to the University of Portland. I put that picture of me and my wife. At the time, she was my girlfriend. I met her at the University of Portland. And I can tell you, I was married on July 20th, 1985. I know exact date because that was the last time I ever saw a paycheck. But I want to also show you, we had ladies in the Mainland too for the graduation back in 1983 when I graduated. But I was offered the job to come to the shipyard before my last semester of my senior year. And so this is my first lesson learned for all of you. So I got a job. So I'm thinking, oh, this is nice. I'm going to go back home, live at home, got a job. So I cruised that last semester. And lo and behold, my grade point average drops below to where I have to go 2 levels down when I got hired into the shipyard. Oh, bad move. And I don't even tell my wife about this. But just a lesson learned. Finish strong in whatever you do. No matter if you get hired before the last semester or whatever you do, just finish strong. Okay. So I got hired in at the shipyard as a nuclear engineer, and shoot, I'm thinking, what's a nuclear engineer, right? Especially in Hawaii. I didn't know we had nuclear reactors then. So just let me give you a perspective of nuclear engineering. I know somebody or a few folks from the shipyard should be coming on Monday from the nuclear engineering department to talk to you, to give you the good, the bad, and ugly. I'm hoping about nuclear engineering. But what we do as nuclear engineers is we write procedures, plans, processes to do maintenance, modernization, repairs on nuclear and radioactive systems. Back in the day when I first started, we were refueling nuclear fuel and reactor cores. And so it's a very complex job. It's nuclear power is an unforgiving industry. So you gotta be really good at risk management. But I tell you, the main purpose of us as nuclear engineers is safety. Safety for our people doing the work, the safety for the 150 sub-odd sailors on a nuclear powered ship. If they go down, we want them to come up, right? And the safety for our environment. So what we did is we incorporated the right safety controls, radiological controls, isolation controls into our procedures. Another section of nuclear engineers guide, plan, direct testing of our reactor plant and of the systems that we repair. So, my training was about 3 years. Those who do the test engineering that'll probably talk to you on Monday. It takes more than 3, it takes up to 4 to 5 years of extensive training because you're going to be operating a reactor plant. We want to make sure we invest in our nuclear engineers to do things safely, do them right. But it really comes back down to, what engineering, as engineers, we are masters of risk management, right? We take the risk We understand the risk and we incorporate that into, whatever we do. But it's pretty exciting. If you think about it, not a lot of people know what nuclear engineers do. I mean, my wife does, so the day I retired, she couldn't believe that I could walk into a reactor compartment with my clothes on and my regular, street shoes. Well, actually, they were steel toe shoes. But she would always tell me, hey, take them off, leave them outside. She didn't understand. But, what we did as nuclear engineers. So I spent 38 years in the shipyard, in various positions, about over 20 years as a department head. I was fortunate enough to be department head of 4 different departments. I tell you this because people wonder, man, how do you spend 38 years in one job? And if you think about it, man, the shipyard's pretty big. And to run 4 different departments, it was pretty a diverse challenge. I think my favorite challenge, besides nuclear engineering, was going to the production, resource production organization. Really leading 3,000 production workers was a challenge, especially if it was an engineer coming into a production department. But I enjoyed it because, that's where the work gets done, right down there on the deck plates. So the shipyard, like Liz mentioned, the largest industrial employer in the state of Hawaii. Like I said, we got about 3,000 production workers. We hire the most engineers. Not a lot of people know we hire the most engineers. I had almost 400 nuclear engineers in my department. We have over 800 in my non-nuclear engineering department, and we have environmental engineers, industrial engineers. We really employ the engineers. Most of, the folks that we hire come from the University of Hawaii, so we appreciate that. I got great engineers. At the time that I was there, we repaired, modernized, did maintenance on 19 nuclear powered ships. This included 4 in Guam, which were standing up a detachment. And I'll mention that I'm still working there, but I got to tell you, whatever I say does not represent the position of the shipyard or the Navy. So when I say something bad, it's all on me, my opinion. But so there's 19 nuclear submarines, and there were 10 conventional surface ships that we were responsible for. We had 6,000 employees. At one time we were up at 10,000, down to 3,000, but now we're about 6,000 employees with about 500 military that we integrate into our workforce. I love the shipyard. I loved everything about the shipyard. I love the mission. I love hearing when the commanding officers came back from their post deployment briefs. I used to listen in. They do amazing things, and so I was proud to be part of that shipyard. But I tell you, the thing that I miss, I don't miss the grind, but I miss the people. The people became like my second family. It was like my family business working at the shipyard. And you can talk to people that have left the shipyard, they feel the same. The people, that's what really made it like just my dream job. The last 6 years, I entered the senior executive service. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the senior executive service, or SES service. In the federal government, there is this SES cadre. There's about 8,000 in the federal government. And really it's the senior civilian of an organization. There's 4 in the naval shipyards. I was one at Pearl Harbor, and the other 3 public shipyards up at Virginia, Maine, and Bremerton, and the state of Washington. But the essence of the SES is like the continuity that's going to stay there while the commanding officer leaves after 3 years. So as an SES, I was equivalent to an admiral. So it's pretty funny because, if you look at our organization, the shipyard commander was kind of like the CEO, and I was kind of like the COO, the chief operating officer, but I didn't report to the shipyard commander. I reported to an admiral back in Washington, DC. There's not too many SESs on the island. Most of them are probably in Indo-PACOM. Very hard to get into the SES program. pretty stringent on how you apply to get selected. Just for information, out of all the SESs across the nation, there's 0.15% that are Native Hawaiian. And so I felt really proud to be one of the small percentage of Native Hawaiians to be part of the SES organization. But as SES, I was just as responsible for the overall performance, the safety, the protection of the environment as a shipyard commander. And I took that responsibility seriously. So that's kind of like my career. That's kind of the shipyard. That's what the SES is. And we can ask, you can ask other questions about that later, but I'm going to kind of go into what are the major themes for the talk today. Okay. Before that, I do want to mention that I am refreshed, and I just want to kind of change the term of retirement, because as soon as I retired, I didn't feel tired. I felt fresh. I'd say, wow, this is how you sleep. This is how you relax, right? But you know what I'm doing in refreshment right now is spending most of my time with my wife. And I tell you a lesson learned for those of you going to retire in like 40 years. Don't expect time, to spend time with your retired wife. She got her own plans already, and I try to move in on that. He said no. But I spend much time with her. We travel to go visit our grandkids in California a lot. And like I said, we play pickleball. I'm not that good, but at least I'm trying to learn something new. And golf, we do that together. I'm spending my time in my consulting business looking for opportunities for small businesses in Hawaii to connect them to DoD needs, Department of Defense needs. I'm also looking for opportunities to start thinking about the workforce that we need to develop now for the future jobs in Hawaii. I want to keep, one of my goals is just keep Hawaii people home to do work here in Hawaii, right? And make the Hawaii economy thrive with Hawaii people and Hawaii businesses. And then I also facilitate and organize leadership development workshops. It could be individual coaching, small groups, but leadership is so important right now. So, I want to kind of put my time back into that. And that's why my theme today is everyone's a leader. Often people think, oh, whoever's in the position, that's the leader. Like Dean Moroka, he's the only leader here because he's in that big job position. Absolutely not. All of you are leaders at any time. And to me, it's a mindset. If you really feel like a leader, it's a mindset. It's how you influence and you inspire others. And we influence and inspire somebody every day, right? So today I'm going to talk about kind of three main leadership roles: leading ourselves, leading with others, and then leading for the future. I really believe now is the time that we need to step up as leaders. Man, I don't even listen to the news, right? I don't even want to hear the bad news. All I want is hope that through leadership, we're just going to take, our communities, our families, our organizations to just higher levels. And it's going to take leaders. Okay. And that's all of you. Don't look around. Oh, where's the leader? Where's the leader? Look in the mirror. Okay. That's where the leaders are. Okay. So let's start with leading ourselves. So the best people ask me, what was the best leadership advice you ever got? And for the longest time, the best leadership advice I ever got was focus on the people, because the people will bring results. So, that's great advice. Focus on the people, right? Not on the process, not on the outcome, not on what success is. Focus on the people. But I'm going to tell you, I got better advice. Focus on yourself so that you can focus on the people and the people bring results. Too often, we think self-care is selfish. It's not. We got to take care of ourselves first before we take care of anybody else. The most important leadership role is leading yourself. Okay, and I'm going to talk about three aspects about leading yourselves. One is knowing yourself. Two is be a continuous learner. And then three, I'm going to talk about the importance and the priority of taking care of your health. Okay, so the first one is, know yourself. In my leadership development workshops, the first exercise I start off with is helping people clarify their personal values. So if you ever want to go do this, or if you haven't done this, is, you go to Brene Brown, you Google Brene Brown personal value exercise. And you can start thinking about what your personal values are. Like mine is, aloha, faith, respect, honesty, humility. But not only those words, it's what are my behaviors that go behind those core values? Because this is what I believe. Core values influences your mindset. Your mindset influences your behavior, and your behaviors will really define your character. So once you center up on your core values, you're kind of centering up on your character. And sometimes I went off the road on my core values, and I got to bring myself back. And I could tell because of my behavior. So think about it. If you haven't written it down, there's two things that I used to carry all the time in my career for the longest time was my core values and my leadership principles. So if you get an opportunity, think about your core values because it's going to set your mindset. Okay. The second aspect I want to talk about is be a continuous learner. Okay. Learning more about different things since I've been refreshed. Right? Like I said, I'm learning pickleball. I'm crap at pickleball, but I'm learning a lot, because it's new. But think about your habits of learning. And it's not about reading all the time. I use social media to learn. In fact, I'm calling it social learning. Just because I'm learning about I spend time on LinkedIn just to learn and reading, articles, reading books, listening to podcasts. But we will always be continuous learners if we're leaders. Okay, so take that into consideration. But the most important part I'm going to ask you to consider when it comes to leading yourself is take care of your health. So you think about this, my job required me to be on call 24/7, 7 days a week, even when I was on vacation. I guess it was called vacation. I was always on call. Sometimes my wife would kick me out of bed because I would get so much calls at night. If you think about it, I was responsible for 19 nuclear reactors that we would start up 15 miles from downtown Honolulu. And I put people into reactor compartments in these full suit anti-Cs to go, take out nuclear fuel to go replace it with new fuel. I was at work every hurricane. I remember setting my wife and my kids up before I went in, and I stayed there till the hurricane passed, tsunamis, you name it. It was very stressful. And I grew up in the age of, hey, suck it up, bro. And, shoot, what is stress? Handle that stress. Wrong. It really affected my health, physically, mentally, which eventually affected my spiritual health and my emotional health. And it made me very ineffective as a leader. So if there's anything that I could, strongly recommend, take care of your health. Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, all aspects of your health. Okay. You should start taking inventory. Am I doing all the right things to take care of my health? So the recommendation that I have when it comes to leading yourself or leading ourselves, we'll start managing your energy. People say, oh, how'd you do this? Work-life balance. No such thing. Anybody tells you that they got work-life balance is not telling the truth. There's no balance. It's fully integrated, right? Work-life is integrated. It's where you place your energy. That's the most important, right? I started to learn. I used to do the fake listen when I used to go home. The fake listen where I'm thinking about work, but I'm listening and nodding, fake listening to the kid. Yeah. No more. I started learning. You got to be present, right? And you don't manage your time, you manage your energy. Where you place your energy. So if you don't right now, I would recommend you start looking at your life, how you manage your schedule, your life schedule. You know, people at work say, oh yeah, I manage my schedule from 6:30 to 3. I go, what about all the rest of the time? Where do you place your energy, right? And I used to color code my time after a while. You know, red was important. My EA knew she can't change that. And I still put in, like, when I work out, when I go to church, people at work started understanding I'm not coming in on Sunday at 11 o'clock to go walk a submarine. And we have to go make sure that they deploy because they know I'm gonna go to church. And then I still got in my schedule right now. And that's why I carry my schedule all around. Put it right in. Me and my wife, we do happy hour every Wednesday. Right? It's right in my schedule. That's my time in my life. Okay. We got our schedule laid out when we visit the grandkids. Go look at your schedule. You got time to work out, right? You got time to think. I got two skills that I learned is so important for leading yourself: self-reflection and self-awareness. I wish I was so much more self-aware earlier in my career. I would have made so much better decisions. Where do you put that time in? In your schedule. What time do you take? I get up at 4:30 every morning without even an alarm. It's called old man syndrome. Just up. I'm just old. And I'm there. 4:30, but that's the time that I can think because nobody else is up. Right? But go look at your schedule. See how it looks. You know, does it match what you value? Like, I value my health, so workout is in my schedule. I value my relationships, so my time with my wife, my family is in the schedule, right? So think about it, and then go look. You know, where is the learning part? Okay. All right, we'll come back to questions if there's any. Most important leadership, right, is leading ourselves first. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about leading others. Probably the most challenging leadership opportunity is leading with others. And I got to tell you, I went through a lot of experiences that required leadership with others. The first one was when I was a department head at the shipyard. We had to release almost 1,000 people from the shipyard. It's called a reduction in force, a RIF. They used to say, "Oh, you got your pink slip and you're gonna, get fired." But actually, we didn't have the budget, so we had to release people. My department alone, I had to release like RIF 42 people or so. These are people that I just brought on, new parents, just having their kids. They just bought a house, and here I am releasing them. The second challenging part is example was July 2005. The shipyard was put on the base realignment and closure list. They're going to shut down the shipyard. There goes, at that time, like 8,000 jobs in the state of Hawaii. Shut it down, right? And so that was a leadership opportunity because we were bad. We were performing terribly. But through leadership with others, through making changes in leadership positions, to making changes in processes and in the environment, we're able to become the best depot maintenance activity in the DoD by 2010. But it took being on the blacklist to really change our attitude. Probably the third and probably the worst day of my career that was challenging was December 4th, 2019. And December 4th was, we had an active shooter event. And I was right there. And, as we were recovering, we were bringing people out of the buildings one by one, groups by groups. And I could see in everybody's eyes as they were leaving the shipyard that, oh, how are we going to get back into the groove again in completing our mission? And that took leadership as well. And to this day, I still, it continues to bother me to this day. And then the last probably key leadership opportunity and challenge was the pandemic, right? Because it's very hard to fix ships remotely at home. We had to bring in our workforce. But the shipyard commander and I, we decided we're going to focus on 3 principles. And the first 2 are the most important. We're going to protect the people, we're going to prevent the spread, and then we'll do the mission. And going back to thinking about the people first, you can take care of the mission. We're able to continue supporting the fleet and completing our maintenance to support the fleet so that they can do their deployments. But we were committed to take care of the people and protect and prevent the spread first. But those are opportunities to lead with others. And to me, there are 3 important aspects about that. The first one is trust, right? You tend, when you build these relationships, you tend to trust those that you build relationships with. And trust is a combination of competency and character. We had high character in doing nuclear work at the shipyard. Competency, we invest in building competency. So we build trust. But trust is so important. Think about all the opportunities for you to be trustworthy, meeting commitments, right? Saying you're sorry when you're wrong. Those are opportunities to build your opportunity to lead with others. So trust is important. The second part was accountability. Making sure that we are accountable for our responsibility, and then holding others accountable for their responsibility. In Hawaii, we don't like piss people off, right? We don't like conflict. 20 years from now, they're gonna remember that. It's the same way in the shipyard. Oh, we're not conflict. It's not about conflict. It's about caring. For one thing, I am going to be my own worst critic. I'm going to know what I did wrong. I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I am going to help you to be accountable. And to me, that's hard, being a leader, holding others accountable. So you start by just holding yourself accountable. Meet commitments, right? Just do what you say you're going to do. And then if you're wrong, say you're wrong and say I'm sorry. But I think the most important part of leading with others is communication. Effective and transparent communication. I continue to work on communication. Okay. If I tell Brennan that, shoot, man, if I had my way, I make the engineers, engineers here take speech and writing at 4 years in college. All 4 years, speech and writing. So just communication is so important. But I got a few tips on communication that I found effective. The first one is build relationships with those who you're communicating. The more you know the person, the more you'll see the person as an individual, as a person versus as a position, right? Or an advocate, or somebody who is for you or against you. You'll just see them as a person first. Build that relationship. The second part is prepare. Prepare for every engagement that you have communicating. I would know my audience, right? The way I talk to a 4-star admiral or to Senator Hirono is way different than I would talk to the first-year apprentice that's coming in, or my first-year engineer that's coming into the shipyard. Way different, right? I can turn the pigeon on and off. Pigeon was my second language growing up, right? But some people, they can understand where I'm coming from just because I know who my audience is, right? And then the third part is listening. Hardest part about communication, listen. But when you listen to understand, not to answer, listen to understand, listen to help, and listen to learn, listening becomes a little bit easier. But that takes practice, okay? And I used to listen just to practice, and in those 3 areas. So my recommendation for you is on that part, I carry a folder wherever or it's in my car. Because for every time I communicate, I log in what I learned, what I got to follow up on, what was the individual's feelings, thinking, Even from phone calls, I would prepare and I would log that. Even texts, when I get texts that are important, I'll write it down because then I'll go back and I'll look. Man, what are some of the trends that how I'm listening or how we're communicating? And just kind of work on that. That's why afterwards, I brought my book because afterwards I'm gonna, write down my notes, kind of reflect on this communication. Okay. So 2 traits I think that are important for leading with others is vulnerability and humility. Humble yourself, be vulnerable to say, I don't know, right? And it's not a weakness. In fact, it's a strength that you know what you're working on. In fact, that's going to be one of your questions when you apply to a job. What are your top strengths? Why are you so valuable to our organization? You're going to want to reflect on your strengths. But then the next question is going to be, so what are you working on? That comes in the humility and vulnerability. Well, I'm not really good at whatever it is. And I'm doing this a lot. Okay. So that's leading with others. It's all about relationships and connections. Right? And relationships and connections go back to self-help. It goes back to taking care of your health. The better relationship, what's that saying? You're gonna be the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. Right? So if you hang around scrubs, you'll be an average scrub. Right? So go look at who you hang around with. Build those relationships. Okay, finally, leading for the future. So for the people in the room, when was the busiest day in the shipyard? Anybody? Go ahead. I know you.
Like that the day that you worked or?
No, ever. That busiest day ever in the shipyard.
So
December 7th, 1941. I used to say December 8th because I figured the day after, right? But my mother-in-law corrected me. She was on the base on December 7th, 1941. She lived there with her family, and her father started gathering the family up together to evacuate the naval base. As she was being evacuated to the naval base, all the shipyard workers were coming to the base. And I used to tell all the new employees, check it out. You're joining an organization where people came to the conflict, not run away from the conflict. That was the busiest day in the shipyard. And it's just an awesome feeling to think about those who came before us. Man, they were coming in, rushing in to come help save lives on the USS Oklahoma, to go repair our ships. Just awesome. But do you think those people who worked on December 7th, 8th, and throughout the war would even think they would have nuclear-powered ship in the same dry dock that they repaired Yorktown? Probably not. So this is an encouragement to you, all of you, to start thinking and leading for the future, right? And I would propose that you think in 3 different areas: in the people, in environment, and then in the processes. So let me start with the people, the talent management, right? You think about the talent that we're going to need in the future. And that's why I'm working on these K through gray, pathways. Kind of work on that. It's like, what do we need from K through gray for our next jobs, right? For the economy of Hawaii. What is that talent needed? Not a lot of people are encouraging their kids to get into trade skills. And yet, we're going to need it. We can't even build enough submarines right now because we don't have the workforce. But anticipate the talent that's required. Okay. I put this picture of my engineer down on the bottom. I put her there because we had this program in the shipyard. It's apprentice to engineer program. And I think we kind of phased that out now because we hire engineers straight up out of college, but it was apprentices from different trades. So she was one of my crane mechanics apprentice. And we brought her in to nuclear engineering, and she came here to University of Hawaii. We paid her way And she graduated in 5 years to get her mechanical engineering degree. And she's just doing awesome right now. But, you know, that's the kind of things that when we start looking at talent management for the future, what are different people gonna have to work remote. So how do we compensate for that? Okay, so start thinking about that. The other part is environment. And it's not only about our INA, but that's so important, right? Sustainability, right? Global warming, we've got to prepare for that. But I'm also talking, when I talk environment, what is the culture we want in the future? How do we influence the culture that will make, you know, our communities better? All of you as leaders can make that happen. It creates that environment, okay? So that's important. You gotta start thinking about that. But I think what's really important for especially engineers is how we innovate for the future. What are those processes that we're gonna have to take risk on, right? You heard from Hank Roger last month, right? Take risks. You know, I used to tell my nuclear engineers, yeah, you know, I don't want you thinking out of the box, but you can make the box bigger, right? So there may be some constraints, but shoot, there's no constraints on making that box bigger. Take some risk. You, all of you, will create the next best thing by taking risk, by being innovative, okay? So the recommendation I have for you is start thinking out of the box by being associated with people out of the box. Go join organizations that you feel uncomfortable. Go read things about the past, because patterns usually repeat and they'll come 10, 15 years from now. Go talk to people that you're interested in, that you know nothing about. Start opening up your mind to be creative, yet persistent in getting things done. Because you know why? You're gonna fail. Everybody fails. You're gonna make mistakes, right? But we learn from that. It's not failure anymore, it's learning. But you gotta take that chance. Be curious and be persistent, okay? Because you are all gonna lead us to the future. And then finally, it's my final thoughts. So what are some of the barriers that kind of kept me on being a really, really good leader? Ego, man, hard to put the ego on the side, right? I'm just the greatest. Ego. So hard. Judgmental, right? How we judge everybody else. Oh, nobody's as good as me. Being judgmental and being selfish. Those three, man, I carried that around a long time until I realized the secret weapon for all of us, because we know it, is aloha. It's that aloha response. To be a great leader, in my opinion, if you have that aloha response in your heart, in your soul, in your spirit, you can lead anybody, yourself, others, and to the future. But it really comes like the design. You can't fake aloha. Nobody fakes aloha. We see right through that. But when you feel it, you know it, and you start leading by it, all those three things that I mentioned that kind of held me back goes away. I mean, it'll pop up. You just gotta, you know, refresh, put that aloha back in. Think about it. You have a unique opportunity to lead. Lead yourself, lead others, lead for the future. And you got what it takes inside to be a great leader. Okay. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions if you got questions.
So thank you very much for all of those incredible lessons and everything. So for the next 15 minutes, we're going to have a Q&A portion. So if any of you here have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. And for those on Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Ellie will start off with the first question.
Yeah, so you post a lot of thoughts on leadership on LinkedIn and such to share your experiences and learning with others. What compels you to do that, especially now that you moved on to a new phase in your life?
So I tell you, I mentioned this before, but I think self-awareness and self-reflection are so important. And ever since I entered refreshment, I got so much more time for that. But I write down my thoughts and my reflections primarily to share some of the experiences. But I gotta tell you, I am in my back of my mind, I'm writing these down because I'm writing these things down because I'm putting together all my thoughts to make like a book for my grandkids. You know, they can make their mistakes, but maybe they don't need to make my mistakes so much earlier that I did. So that's kind of, and then I shared on LinkedIn, I shared on Facebook, primarily because, you know, I think it makes my soul feel good, you know, kind of like confession. Oh, I did all these things, but it also, I think, is a learning opportunity.
Well, your grandkids must be very lucky to have you.
Yeah, they are. No, I'm just kidding. Like my friend said, oh, so fun, grandkids, so fun. And if I knew it was gonna be this good, I would have skipped the kids. But yeah.
So you've had a very long career with the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, and it was very amazing for many here in Hawaii to see a local boy rise to the position that you did, being basically the kind of the top civilian at the shipyard. So kind of with that in mind, were there any pressures for you to succeed? And also, were there people who you leaned on for support and strength in those times?
So the only pressure that I ever felt on at least career success was my own pressure. And you know, I never have to be motivated by anybody else. Although, you know, when you think about it, probably you can hear your father or your mother kind of encouraging that self-motivation. You know, my dad was a big influence on me. My dad was, you know, lifetime in the army and went to like 2 wars, and I never realized it until I was older. Like, wow, he did a lot and sacrificed a lot. So I think that was in the back of my mind. So he influenced me a lot. I've gotten a lot of people to help me through my career. And there's probably other questions about mentoring or coaching or sponsoring. And I had all three. I had mentors, I had sponsors, I had coaches. And the difference is, you know, the mentors that I built these relationships, the mentors, to kind of help me find my blind spots. So I used to have apprentices that were my mentors, senior leaders in other commands as my mentors. I had coaches that were coaching me on some specific things, like self-regulation was a big weakness while I was becoming a leader. So I had a coach that really helped me focus on improving my self-regulation. And then sponsors are those that advocate for you into, you know, whatever position you want. And you want all three, but you need to start building relationships. And people would come to me all the time. Could you be my mentor? And then after we sit down, you know, I wasn't the right fit for some of them, but to this day, I still have mentors. And the other biggest influence and mentor, coach, sponsor was my wife, right? When I wasn't home and I was absent in mind, she held down the fort, and I go, wow. She did amazing things in all those years we've been married, even though she's gotten all the paychecks, but I hope that answers the question.
So in the first part, you talked about leading yourself and how it seemed like you made a very dramatic shift from not being as self-aware to where you are now. I was wondering what kind of influenced that, and what did you look to for that kind of inspiration?
So, you know, I mentioned that you could tell my health was degrading by my behaviors. And so my wife noticed it, being my mentor. She knew I would always be angry, and I'd be sleeping angry. She would tell me, you get up angry, you come home angry. And finally she said, you know, she really got to change, or you got to change your house. And I didn't want to move out. I didn't really want to move out. So, that self-realization, and then I paused because it was affecting my family, it was affecting the people around me, it was affecting the people I was leading, and I could see it. But my wife, until she gave me the ultimatum, either change or change your house. I wanted to stay in my house, so that was a big influence. But it was my behavior. So, if you start now on that self-reflection and that self-awareness, you can see that, those behaviors. And especially when you start reflecting on, is it consistent with my values? And that's what I ask myself every morning now. When I reflect, I go, did I do yesterday consistent with my values? Oh, no, I was kind of disrespectful at this time. And so I got to go apologize, or what am I going to do today to stay consistent with my values? And when I started learning that I got to be more consistent with my values, and became, focused on my health.
What advice would you give to those who are having trouble managing where they put their energy? I feel like, especially college students, we don't know what deserves the most priorities, or we're having trouble balancing all of it.
Yeah, not only students, everybody in life. It is about priorities, right? And it is about time. It is about where you're going to place your energy. So what I finally did was, I looked at the six F's in my life, and where I'm placing my time in the 6 F's, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance, friends, and fun. And sooner or later I can see, whoa, man, fun is not balanced, right? Our family is not balanced. And finance is where, I use that excuse why I work so hard. Well, because I want to be financially, stable and prepare for the future. But it's always taking an assessment. Well, for me, it was taking an assessment of those 6 areas and where in my schedule do those 6 areas fit in. And with friends, it was like relationships. And I was noticing that I wasn't, balancing my relationship time too. So it really is taking a self-assessment of what you value, right? And seeing if you're spending enough time. And it's not gonna be balanced. It won't be balanced. So you got to see how it fits in to, who you are at that time. Not easy.
So in your point about leading with others, you mentioned that vulnerability is a good characteristic to have, and you mentioned that you have to sometimes say that you just don't know. So how do you lead in those instances where you don't know what to do?
Okay, so I would give you 2 answers on that, because it's so much easier being, later on in my career as a leader to say, I don't know, than it is to just starting off as a leader to say, I don't know. Because starting off as a leader, saying, I don't know, is like, wow, how can we have, confidence in this new leader if they're saying, I don't know? And so what I learned when I went over to the production organization, I didn't know anything about production, right? Because I had spent my time in engineering the whole time. So when I went there, I didn't want to say I didn't know. So what I did is spent most of my time with the workforce, out of meetings with the workforce, getting on the deck plates, going into the shops to start learning what to know and asking questions. So maybe not admitting that I don't know, maybe asking more probing questions. That's one thing about a leader too, right? Good leaders don't give answers. Good leaders ask good questions. So if you can own your ability to ask good questions, you're not really saying I don't know. You're really asking to, how to get the know. But it is harder. I'm gonna tell you, it is hard. The first time that I was a division head, 6 years into the shipyard, I didn't want to say I didn't know. I wish I knew how to ask better questions.
Mind talking a little bit more about your consulting that you do now? Maybe some like cool projects or something that you're really excited about?
Shoot, yeah. In fact, I was telling D. Maroka, I just got up a call about additive manufacturing that we want to bring, expand the opportunity here on the islands
for additive manufacturing, but specifically see how we can support the shipyard, the Navy, the fleet to increase use of additive manufacturing, maybe to help with the supply chain. I mean, that's still in thinking, working with the University of Hawaii College of Engineering, working with local organizations, seeing what the Navy's needs are. You know, maybe that's one of our projects. The other project is really looking at this workforce development for the future. You know, with the additive manufacturing, you need some workforce development parts about that. Not only engineering, my trades folks, they could really use training in additive manufacturing, making parts, making tools, you know, other things. I gotta tell you, I enjoy what I do in my consulting, and it's about helping people. And I tell you what's complete. Yeah, I mean, you go through different seasons of your life. So this season that I'm in right now is that kind of give and serve season. I spent so much time in that learn and grow season that I didn't spend enough time in this give and serve season. So now it's like helping the community, helping especially Native Hawaiians. I want to help. We're going to go volunteer and do some leadership workshops for some Native Hawaiian organizations. So, you know, that's kind of exciting for me now that it's at that season of give and serve.
Giving back to the people around you.
I want to, yeah. I didn't do enough. That was one thing I don't regret anything, but maybe some do-overs. I'd probably do more in the community earlier.
Thank you so much for your time and
Yeah.
thoughts, and I guess we'll have Dean Morioka close us out.
You have one last question to ask.
Oh, yes. This is from Dean Morioka. Are you one of the community members lobbying the mayor for more dedicated public pickleball courts?
Oh, well, hey, funny you should ask. Today, we were just reading the article about all the places they're gonna expand where to play pickleball. It's crazy out there. It's different. I mean, we go mainland, we play pickleball. It's real organized. Oh, you gotta rush to courts over here.
But yeah,
I am the one. I am the guy. And he's answering. They took a poll like, oh, all the unused like volleyball courts. So all you volleyball players better get out there and start using the volleyball courts or become pickleball. That's a good question.
All right, well, thank you, Adam and Elizabeth, for moderating today. But I mean, for everybody online as well, you know, I think as you listen to Kaipo, you see really why I appreciate and enjoy listening to what he has to say, because it's always very thoughtful and purposeful in what he has to share. So I appreciate Kaipo you sharing today. I didn't know you got so angry that I'm glad I moved before this all happened. So I moved the house. But no, he's been a great neighbor, a great friend over the years. So I appreciate you doing this. And again, thank you to the Hayashida Ohana for their support and financial support for all of our leadership efforts here at the college. And then for everybody listening again, you know, our next leadership seminar series continues on April 14th with Sushin, President and CEO of Hawaiian Telcom. So she'll have a lot of things to say too. Very different path, career path, professional life path for Sue. And I think you're going to find her talk very interesting as well. So please join us next month on April 14th. Not our normal first Friday of the month, but please do join us. So thank you again for everybody joining us. So aloha.